smoking, but when they hear this song, they'll learn there's more to toking. 25,000 different things we can make from it, and if we give it a chance, we'll save the blinking planet. Food, fuel and medicine, necessities for life, a benefit to all of us, our wonder and delight. Within this smelly weed, there's more than meets the eye, so much, much more than smoking, it can cleanse our dirty skies. Cannabis, cannabis, we'll save the planet with cannabis.
Thank you very much. Right, this is, we're on time for Hemp. This is Hemp Works, and tonight I have a very, very nice guest on board, Thomas, who's an Australian, who's living in London, and he likes it, and he's made a very interesting film, or making a very interesting film. Thomas, can you tell us a bit more about the film you're making, please?
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me on your show.
Oh, man, pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure to talk about the film. Basically, the film's called The Cancer Conflict, and it's a documentary that's been in production for the last 2 years. And in a nutshell, it follows two people's journeys battling cancer. Two very different types of cancers, but they're taking completely different treatment options. One's chosen conventional treatment and one's chosen completely alternative treatment. And the film isn't a comparison as to which treatment works best to deal with cancer. It's a film that follows these two people and uses their journeys as a platform to discuss the relationship between the patient and the treatment, and then the treatment's relationship between complementary and alternative and conventional treatments, the relationship between the two.
Thomas, can I stop you there? Can you actually identify or explain to us the difference between what you're calling conventional treatment and alternative treatment?
Okay, so conventional treatment or is basically anything that's available through the health system, through the NHS, right? And generally, I will say that anything that's available through the NHS is evidence-based. It's based on clinical trials and approved as a result of lots of evidence.
Can I take it further than the UK based on national health? This is what really the big pharmaceutical companies are giving us as cancer treatment, yeah? Would you agree with that?
So, yeah, the cancer treatment, the treatments that are available through the NHS are supplied by pharmaceutical companies, yeah.
Big pharmaceutical companies, okay.
So complementary alternative treatment is anything that sits outside of that, outside of what's approved by the NHS, the government. Yeah, and so the film is set within this sort of a statistical framework of the UK having the lowest cancer survival rate in Western Europe, and I have to say those figures are from a few years ago now, but the consensus is that it's still very much at the bottom of the pile, so to speak.
So could you actually repeat what you just said there? The UK
has the lowest cancer survival rate in Western Europe.
The lowest survival cancer rate in Western Europe. My goodness gracious, mate. And seeing as we apparently the English medicine or English, we've always been considered one of the best countries in the world for our medical care. Yeah. So to end up at the bottom of the pile for anything is quite disgraceful, really, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, it was certainly a surprise. It was certainly a surprise when I learned the statistic. Yeah.
Have you found any reasons for that? I mean, is there any?
Well, that's the $1 million, Steve. That's the $1 million question that everyone keeps asking me. And look, what I can tell you is that there's differing opinion, and the consistent feedback I get is around diagnosis and the treatment itself. So, I mean, I don't want to go into too many specifics because there's more uncovering as we go. We want to save some of the stuff for the film itself.
I'm sure. Can I ask you one more question?
Of course.
I'm sort of under the belief that really cancer treatments are pretty much the same wherever you go in Western Europe or America or North America. So, what sort of treatment you're going to get in France would be pretty much the same treatment you get in England. Is that a fact, or am I totally wrong?
For France, I couldn't answer that.
But
I do know that
generally speaking, I think, just as a European country.
Well, no, I do know that there are a number of treatments that are not available in the UK that are available in other European countries.
Okay,
like immunotherapy and thermotherapy and proton beam therapy. I don't know about proton beam therapy, whether it's available here in the UK yet, but I know that these are cancer treatments that are not available here.
Well, certainly if we got the lowest survival rate in Europe, it's obviously a massive problem that we got to look at. I also believe factually that we got one of the highest cancer rates in Europe.
Right.
Have you come across those figures?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
If I'm wrong, prove me wrong, sort of thing. I'm not laying it down as a completely hardcore fact, but I believe that the UK has one of the highest cancer rates in Europe, and then you're adding to that, we've got one of the lowest survival rates. So that's a problem that really must be looked at. And I must say, from the bits that I've seen of your film, you're giving both sides of the debate, equal justice, So we've identified what we were calling the conventional treatment, which is the PLC, National Health, because obviously we're a worldwide audience. The National Health Service, by the way, is a free service in England that was designed around about after the Second World War, where all people, regardless of how much money they had in the UK, would be able to access the best healthcare that was available. That started a whole revolution or evolution through healthcare throughout the world, about free medical care. So, big up England for what it did back then, that obviously nowadays is under a lot of stress, and one of the things that's going on is the cancer rates are increasing and the survival rates are going down. So they must look at this as a big problem. So then can we move on to the alternative? What do you class as what you call alternative medicines?
Well, alternative is anything that sits outside of that. So, I mean, at the moment, alternative medicine in the UK could be anything that's not approved by the NHS. So we could look at that as alternative. But really, if there's evidence that supports it, it's that it can be argued that it's not under the alternative bracket. And traditionally, I suppose the way that Western medicine looks at what is alternative medicine is it's anything that doesn't have that lacks an evidence base to support whether it works or not.
Yeah. So what would that be, like hands-on healing or fruits and vegetables? Or
hands-on healing, cannabis is actually considered in a lot of areas to be untested in terms of especially with treating cancer, and therefore alternative. Homeopathy, what else? Vitamin C injections. There's a massive list. GC MAF, miracle herbs.
Massive list. Yeah.
Peptides, all these things.
Yeah. Without getting you involved too much because obviously I know your stance on the film is very neutral. You're just trying to display both sides of the debate. Yeah. But obviously you've been very involved and you've met a lot of people, through obviously making the film, it's the $1 million question. If you had to choose one now, which one would you go to? Yeah. Would you take what you call the alternative first and then try chemo, or try the chemo then try the alternative? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Look, Steve, it's a difficult one to answer because I'm not in that situation. I'm not in a situation where it depends on the cancer, I suppose. It depends on
that's a good point.
And how advanced it was. That would play a massive, massive role. I will say this. There's a lot of surgery is considered curative, right? If you can cut it out of your body, it's gone. Yeah, but there's a lot of discussion, and some experts I've spoken to claim that there's evidence, and we're looking into this as well, around the fact that surgery actually spreads the cancer. If you look at it like the way that they explain it is, if you look at it like the cancer is one of those flowers that you pick up in the field and you blow up and all the petals fly away, they become seeds.
Yeah.
Well, you look at it like the cancer's like one of those flowers, and if you cut it out, all the seeds will spread.
Yeah. I'm very familiar with that because, unfortunately, in 1976, at the age of 18, I lost my own mother at the Free Royal Marsden Hospital, just outside of London. And she had cancer, and at that time it was all surgery, and I watched her lose a breast and then another breast. And basically they carved her up. And every time they carved her up, and it was very good surgery, by the way, it seemed to run to some other place. And in those days, they wasn't even looking at those facts back in 1960, whenever, 1976, sorry, I think I lost 18.
This is an interesting part of it. It really is.
Yeah.
But I mean, with that aside, I would seriously consider surgery and just getting rid of it, I suppose. I'd consult loads of experts, right? I'd do that. Yeah. And then I'd look at changing my lifestyle. I would definitely do that, and my diet and all those sorts of things, I think, just to become a more healthy person. And I'd research some of the more modern treatments that were available, really sort of look into everything that's out there that's available that would best treat whatever cancer it was that I had.
Yeah.
Because every cancer is different, mate,
Every cancer is totally different. And by the way, I treat cancer patients with herbal remedies, basically cannabis medicine. Yeah? I've got no shame in that. And it's really odd because you can have two clients. I had one just recently, basically both the same age, both the same sort of lifestyle, got them both on the same protocol. They were both at the same stage of cancer. One survived and one didn't. Oh. And I came back from a conference just recently in Czechoslovakia, where some of the great speakers, there was a guy from Israel talking, there was Dr. Robert Melameda, Coriander, all these people that really are beginning to understand what the cannabis medicine is. And really, when you talk to the higher professionals now, we all understand. We don't understand nothing, and it is what works for you. Yeah, there is no one-off. Obviously, things like the Rick Simpson oil, which a lot of people are very familiar with, is a very good method of using. Yeah, but there is now other methods out there that are also equally as good, and maybe they have other benefits as well. So I mean, that brings me on to that question. You're obviously on a cannabis radio show. You know me personally. I'm a cannabis. I'm cannabis full stop. Yeah.
You are.
So you've come in touch just recently with inside of a lot of the English professional, conventional medical industry, or industry, call it industry, but again, the word cannabis now is not such a dirty word as it was a few years ago, is it? Yeah, they're beginning to sort of talk about it.
Less so, from what I can see. Yeah, less dirty, so to speak.
Yeah, less dirty. Yeah, it's once upon a time you talk about it, and it's just people get up and run away. It's worse than saying "fuck or farted."
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So anyway, I mean, right? Let's go back to the film then. I mean, the the film because go for it.
Well, no, I think it's interesting because I've come across and cannabis is an important part of this because lots and lots of people I've spoken to are using cannabis to treat their cancer. In some countries, as you know, it's legal for pain management, but at the moment, at least in the UK, I'm only going to speak for the UK in this regard, is that it's certainly not legal for treatment. And it's funny because I had a conversation, and I'll release this video on Facebook soon, but I had a conversation with a pharmacologist in December, and when we discussed some of the clinical trials. Actually, I think we discussed one of the clinical trials that you sent me. I think it was one of the ones you sent me, actually.
I think it was, yeah.
We discussed it with him, and I discussed it with him, and he was quite interested in it, but basically came to the conclusion that it was worth more exploration. It was, but there's a lot of trouble with this particular trial. I think was on rats, and there's a lot of. While there's a lot of similarities between, let's put it this way: if you by testing something on rats first, you can't say definitively it's going to work on humans. And so,
well, it was very interesting again because I followed the cannabis story, especially being from the UK and being a hemp farmer and going through all the things. You see, in 1999, the BMA, the British Medical Association, which is the highest regarded medical association in the world, they wrote a 37-page booklet, and it was about cannabis. And basically, they asked the government back in 1998, that they thought that cannabis was worth exploring. And it's the British Medical Association, and the government must take notice of them. They wanted a change in the law to be able to explore the benefits or non-benefits of what cannabis could do. And they got a change in the law which reclassified it from this Class A to Class B, and there was a couple of companies that picked up with it. One of them particularly was a company called GW Pharmaceuticals, which was given a license to study and research, under government funding, by the way, whether cannabis did have any medical benefits, Now, they already knew that it did because they'd already seen the research papers from America when it was all done in 1967, and they also called on a professor called Dr. Edward Russo, who's one of the most amazing cannabis research professors in the world. He's up there with Meadmore and things, but Meadmore and Dr. Bob are more famous because they got internet and blah, blah, blah. But Russo stands back a lot. But Russo really is a very, very intelligent man. And he brought all the information over. He was part of the team. So they already knew that it worked, if you understand what I mean, Now, they've done some research on that, the GW Pharmaceuticals. As you say, again, it's not legal in the UK. Well, it is legal in the UK because we have a company that produces it called GW Pharmaceuticals. And that can be accessed via certain doctors or certain private prescriptions or what area you live in for certain medical conditions, one of them being MS, and they brought out a new one that's for epilepsy. So in the UK, it is legal because there's a company that manufactures.
Well, the CBD,
they grow it.
CBD,
But it's not just CBD; they use THC too.
Oh, okay.
In Savitex, it's 2.5 THC, 2.5 CBD. The epilepsy drug is a different ratio, but they do use THC. And the two plants that they actually grow, it's quite funny enough, in the papers around about that late 90s, there was a load of information out there on the news media about this thing called super skunk. Well, super skunk is one of the plants that they actually grow, which is a white widow that they got from a company called Genex in Holland to be able to facilitate their research. So it's a really, it's a fucking strange dichotomy in England that it is legal if you know the right doctor, or if you're willing to go private, and if you've got the right medical condition.
Interesting.
Interesting. But factual.
Yeah, no, it is. It is interesting. Very interesting. And this is something that you did put me onto last year that we're looking into as well. It's very interesting.
Also, to bring you back again to the UK, some of the best research in the world was actually done by some of the bigger scientific communities, Reading University, London University. I can't remember the list, but some of the big research is actually in cannabinoids. Not as it's been done in Israel by Dr. Meadmore, it was done in England. So we had this fantastic research that all came out very positive, and we had the BMA backing it back in 1999. But we're still sitting in this dichotomy where it's not legal to access it, but we have a company that sells it. It's so weird. Yeah, it's so weird. But as you say, when you come back to some of the researchers now, they certainly are looking at it again, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, from what I've seen, then there seems to be research going on. Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for the pharmaceutical companies, but there's certainly talk about it from what I've seen. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, right, let's go back to the film, because this is what it's all about, yeah, because it's an amazing piece of film work.
Thank you.
I've been following it, I think, since day one, and I do love the way that you've given it the balance between what you called the alternative, and I believe one of the ladies that you filmed, she's actually using cannabis, is that correct?
She is. Surinder, yeah, she's been using cannabis oil.
Surinder's using cannabis. And then the other guy, he's taken what we call the conventional line, which is the chemotherapy and radiotherapy and pills and pops and chemical stuff, yeah? So, where am I going with that? Yeah, so you've been following those two stories. So anyway, right, there was a lot of excitement just before Christmas. You went GoFundMe, didn't you, to get some money, yeah?
Yeah, we did.
And how did that work out?
It worked out all right. It went very, very well. We did all right, Steve. We did all right.
It did, didn't it? Wasn't it exciting to watch how many people actually backed you? Yeah. And I believe you actually hit the target 48 hours before the cut-off time?
We did. So we had a target of £40,000. And we had to raise that amount of money in 30 days, and we did that. We raised £41,260 across just 528 people.
Yeah,
it was.
Steve,
I got it, mate. It was the most stressful month of my.
I mean, I must agree with you, because I was pumping it all over my social network, and I was sort of in there with you, and blah, 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 and it was fantastic. So I so wanted the film to work, because it was UK based, but it was real joy, wasn't it, when that last bit of money come in, and
we kicked over the 40,000 mark. I did a little happy dance around my flat. It was really, really stressful, but we did it, mate. We did it with the help and support like yourself. So it was big. Yeah. It was a big.
As they say in Australia, you were stoked.
Stoked, mate.
Stoked, mate. Yeah, stoked too, right? So.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So so you got the money in the bank. What's happening with the film now?
Well, we're in the process of preparing for the edit. So, there's a few things that are happening. So, most of the film has been shot. We've shot about. We've shot all the stories of the two main contributors, Grant and Surinder. So their stories are in the can, and there's a number of interviews that we've got with experts in the can, and there's a few other sort of subplot stories that we've filmed as well. We've still got a few other bits to film in terms of we've just actually started a brand new story thread that's sort of come out of nowhere, which is really, really interesting. However, I can't talk about it too much because...
No.
The reason why is because it's sort of the guys that are involved. We're not quite sure if we can use the story thread yet, and so we're just holding off. We're just holding off on. We're still filming it because it's very good, but it's all about the Cancer Act, which impacts what people can choose for their treatment. So that's.
Can you explain the Cancer Act?
Well, the Cancer Act, in a nutshell, is basically a law that says that you cannot sell or advertise any treatment that claims to treat cancer that hasn't been approved by the NHS.
Well, can I tell you a funny story? When I went sort of live on Facebook, they contacted me because I was putting up that cannabis cures cancer, and they said, "Well, you can't say that." A government department.
Did they?
Yeah, and they said, "Well, you can't say that." And I said, "Well, the best thing to do is take me to court, because unfortunately I could disprove that."
When was
this? I
wasn't
allowed to see about 4 years ago, when I went live on Facebook. Yeah, Mum. They said I wasn't allowed to say it, and I said, "Well, I said, basically, fuck off you, because cannabis has cured me. Take me to court and I prove it." I've never heard no more back from them.
Wow, interesting. Wow, well, there you go. Although I wouldn't. Hey, Steve, mate, if I was in the government, I wouldn't want to contend with the likes of you, mate. So I'm not surprised. I reckon I would. Do you know what I mean? you'd be a handful, Steve. Hey, you'd be a handful, mate.
I'm an handful, mate. I've sat in a few of them government places, and they don't like me, and they've asked me to leave because I'm a bloody handful.
Can't imagine.
But I'm not offensive, yeah? I'm not offensive with them.
No, you just...
I am an handful.
Oh, you're a handful, mate. I didn't say offensive.
I'm a bloody handful.
Definitely a handful.
So, right, back to the film. We're on the edit.
So we've got a little bit more filming to do, but basically what we're doing is we're in the process of transcribing and getting all the raw footage ready to cut. We're going to be start cutting in February, looking like the end of February, because the job I'm on at the moment is just running over a little bit, and I've got to see it out. But end of February is it's looking like, and and then we've got 3 months of hardcore film editing ahead. We'll see. Hopefully 3 months will be enough. I'm pretty sure it will be.
Yeah.
Because we're
now obviously we put this in the edits and things, but how can people contact you and see the film? It's publicity. And obviously, guys, you all know me out there, yeah? I don't promote things that are rubbish. Really go and take a look at this guy's work, right? It really is very, very interesting because he gives both sides. So how can we contact you? Where do we find you?
Well, there's a couple of places. There's the film's website, which is www.cancerconflictmovie.com, and you go there. You'll get a little drop-down thing that offers that asks you to enter your email address for updates about the film. So you can do that. You can keep fully abreast of everything. And then another place to go is the film's Facebook page, which is just the Cancer Conflict on Facebook. And you'll get lots of updates there. Excuse me, sorry.
Oh, bless you.
Thank you. You get all the updates there, plus loads of content that we're funneling through the social media page. That's part of the discussion. So you can go there and stay abreast of things too.
Are you getting a good following?
Mate, it's amazing. It's amazing. We've got 8,115 at the moment, and it's great actually. I was just before I spoke to you guys, I was speaking to my impact producer. Don't ask me what that means, but basically,
it sounds a bit kinky to me. So
it's very. Yeah.
I mean, if you need an impact producer, we all got our bits and bobs. Oh, mate. For a hemp fan, you're fast. You are sharp. I love it. Basically, I was talking to my impact producer, basically someone who manages a lot of the interaction between the film and the public. She works on a film called That Sugar Film, which is a great documentary about sugar. But I posted an article this afternoon about alkaline diets. We're reaching massive reach and huge amounts of shares and comments. It's brilliant, mate. It's going really well. Yeah. The one thing I love about you as well, because what made you get involved in this? What made you do it? What's Thomas all about? Huh?
What made me do it?
Yeah, well, you wake up one morning and think, I'll make a film about cancer.
That's a great answer.
We've got nothing better to do.
I know. Yeah, right. Well, I just finished making a very personal documentary called How to Lose Jobs and Alienate Girlfriends. And it's a documentary. It's a documentary about two musicians, one who's a 25-year-old waitress and a 40-year-old filmmaker, and their quest to become professional musicians, and my experience making a film about them. And it's basically a film that explores relationships when you're pursuing your passion and your dream.
Yeah.
And effectively how I destroy my relationship with the two of them, because he's my boss and she's my boss. And it's a great little movie. And I'd finished it in 2015. It was getting released. It's cinema release. And I wanted to make a film that was going to have just as much of an emotional edge, emotional intensity, but could help people, Steve. Like really help people. Like really, really make a difference to people, and really reach a huge number of people and really touch a huge number of people. And when you're a filmmaker and you're a storyteller, that's what you want to do. You really want to give people an experience that moves them from one mood, one headspace, one perspective to another perspective so they can see things differently. And so you're driven, well, at least I'm driven by this desire to do that. And so I thought, so I started looking for a project that would be relevant and could have that kind of an impact. And I was coming along. What happened? I came across I can't remember exactly the order, but I came across the stats, the UK survival rate stats of being UK cancer survival rate in Western Europe, and that knocked me over.
Yeah, they're pretty shocking, aren't they?
Yeah,
they are really shocking. When you read them, it's like, what?
Yeah. And then you've got. I had an experience with a doctor here, who not only misdiagnosed me with my back problem, but he completely misread my MRI results. Completely misread them and told me I didn't even have a problem at all.
Which is basics, isn't it? That's basics.
So I had a really big problem, and I sort of went, hang on a minute, how is this possible? So it shook my confidence just a little bit, and this all happened in the space of about 5 or 6 months. And my girlfriend at the time was into diet and was exploring veganism a lot. So I was exposed to a lot of stuff around diet and the impact of food. So the whole idea of having a lifestyle, over a long period of time, keeping healthy, was all playing on my mind. And so these stats, and then the Aisha King story. Don't know if you remember that, but basically this little boy, he had a brain tumor, and his parents came out and they said, we don't want to give him radiotherapy. We want to take him to Prague and give him proton beam therapy. Yeah, we'll pay for it ourselves. We'll pay for it ourselves, and all will be well. And basically, the doctor said, no, you can't do that. That the proton beam therapy it's not been tested by. There's no evidence to support it. We don't believe in it. You can't take the kid. And they wanted to take him because they felt radiotherapy. They'd done a bit of research on it themselves, and they felt radiotherapy he was being offered was actually going to do more harm. Yeah. They took him out of the hospital, and subsequently they were basically, the police were sent after them, and they ended up in jail.
They were arrested, wasn't they?
Arrested, yeah. Anyway, this became a massive news sensation, and I found myself at the time thinking, how could that happen? Yeah. How could that happen? How can the parents not be able to say, I want my kid to do this? I couldn't understand that. And so the whole concept of choice became, or lack of choice in this instance, became an issue. And that's basically where it all sort of kicked off from, really.
Yeah. If anybody cares to go through my archives, I've got a lady on there called Sierra Riddle, and her son was Landon Riddle, and he was the same. They was like pumping all this chemotherapy into him, and go and look at the story. Yeah, she tells it herself. I've had about 3 interviews with her, but he was the same. They threatened to take him away. I've got another guy that I've done a couple of interviews with called Michael. He's from Tennessee. They've actually taken his children away from him because he's cured himself with cannabis, and they say he's an unfit father. Right. So all around the world, there is some really crazy shit going on, especially with our kids, about, vaccines, for instance, this whole thing about vaccines.
About which one? Vaccines? Right.
Yeah, vaccines. It's another one, isn't it? That it's not a personal choice anymore. They want to vaccinate our kids, yet there's a lot of scientific evidence that's saying all these vaccines is not as good as what they're trying to tell us, but it's not even a personal choice where you get to say, I want to go and give some proton therapy to my kid. And you get arrested for it. It's like, it really opens up a lot of questions. It's like a can of worms.
Yeah. It does. It becomes a can of worms.
Yeah.
Maybe.
So anyway, you got onto the subject, and obviously you saw the cancer reports, you saw that photon. So that led you on to deciding to make a film.
Well, I just basically I started developing the idea and started thinking, okay, well, what could this film be about? Could it be just a basic film that explores the NHS and the way that treatment's decided to, people, what treatments are decided are approved and how and why? Or could it be a film that follows one person's personal journey, and off that we explore the different treatment options, and a development process basically ensued. And then eventually I was talking to a fellow by the name of Rob Verkerk, who is a scientist and a very interesting man, and he said, you should make a film that basically follows one person who's doing alternative and one person who's doing conventional. And I thought, well, that's a brilliant idea. Well, that makes perfect sense.
Brilliant.
So it was great. So I basically, with the help of a few different people, put the word out on Facebook, looking for some candidates who might be interested in participating, and found Surinder and Grant. And initially, it was just going to be, it's an interesting story. Well, it's interesting to me anyway, Steve. But basically, it was originally just going to be a treatment, a pitch, an idea that I was going to try and raise the money for through broadcasters and TV channels, and which is the sort of conventional way of doing things here in the UK, or with TV generally. And, I wrote this treatment and then found myself going, okay, well, why don't I go and film some footage, and I'll put together something called a taster tape, which is an example of what the film would be like and who these characters are and all this kind of thing. And the material I shot was amazing, Steve. I was so excited by it. And I thought, well, now I've started, I better sort of continue to follow these stories while I try and raise the money. And before you know it, 2 years have gone by, and I've accumulated an entire film's worth of footage. And I've just been following these two people for the last 2 years. It's sort of grown and grown and grown and grown. And before you know it, mate, I'm making another movie. I funded it all myself too. I've spent about £30,000 of my own money on it now. I just did another tally. And sort of found myself mid last year thinking, okay, I'm at the end of filming now. I've got to put this together, and that's what kicked off the idea for the Kickstarter, the crowdfunding, to get the money to finish. And that's how we got there.
And let's go to Australia too. I mean, you're in Australia, and Australia now has recognised medical marijuana, and apparently they just passed a bill that says now everybody can have access to medical marijuana. Yeah,
amazing.
So, it's amazing, isn't it? Totally amazing. Yeah. Too right as well, because as you say, it's a bit like the photon therapy. In my experience, cannabis obviously works. Yeah, not all the time. Yeah, we're still learning, but it's a good chance. It's the best chance. Yeah, all the ways of doing it, from RSO to I do some crazy water infusion stuff that the world's just getting its head around, but. You use this plant and it really seems to work. And if you look at the big science from people like Dr. Robert Meadmore about the endocannabinoid system, then you begin to understand why it's starting to work. But the main thing is we should have access to it. Yeah? Because in my experience, it's never caused no harm. Yeah? And I've lost it. One of the things that keeps me going is not the people that have survived by the work that I do. It's by the people that didn't make it.
Well, I've got a question. I've got a question for you, Steve. In that regard, I mean, would you tell someone not to do conventional treatment and to only use cannabis?
Yes. Right at the moment, yes, I would. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I can almost prove it.
What if? But my question was the person that you gave an example of, the two people that had the same cancer, the same and one of them made it and one of them died. Yeah. Can you explain why you think that?
They were both sent home to die anyway. They're both conventional treatment. They're both giving up on them. Yeah.
Right. Conventional treatment.
So they were going to die anyway.
Yeah,
100%. So I've got a 50% result, if you like. Now, I didn't like losing the one that I lost because that upset me, but we tried. Now, what my story was going back to the people that I've lost, is most of the people that I've lost, the families have always written to me and said, carry on, because whatever you did helped.
Right.
So it's not about the survival, people, because I lose one, I'll give up, my medicine shit, I'm not making it right, or blah, blah, blah. But when a family tell you that you've given something that they feel has helped, then you can't give up.
Mm.
I even had one lady die. She left me some money. She bequeathed some money in her will. Can you believe that?
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, unbelievable, man. I was shocked. Absolutely shocked.
Well, what would you say? Okay, so would you? And this is just, I'm just playing devil's advocate of, say, someone who works in the
interview. I love interviewing other interviewers.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm curious, mate, because one of the things I come across all the time is this sort of this argument that people may be denied something that can help them based on an anecdote or anecdotal evidence, right? So convincing someone that something will work based on an anecdote when in actual fact there's no evidence to support it, and that therefore they might choose something that actually could help them. This is a big argument that comes up a lot. And so would you tell someone not to use chemotherapy who hadn't tried chemotherapy yet, or would you just you would?
Yeah.
So what would you say?
I would say, if anything, use it as second chance, not first chance. Try the herbs, try the raw diet, try going alkaline, certainly put cannabis inside of your body. Try that first. If it doesn't work, then maybe go and look at the chemo or the surgery or whatever else they got on offer, the photon. But not as first course of treatment. Yeah. Now, you talk about anecdotal evidence, you see, the problem, again, coming back to myself, is I was sent home to die. I had 48 hours left to live. I managed to get over 48 hours. I was basically sent home. They couldn't give me, they had nothing left in their arsenal to give me.
So they sent you home.
The only thing that survived me, and don't forget that was 5 years ago, told me I'm dead. I'm 3.5 years clear now. The only thing that survived me was a change in diet, change in attitude, and I use a lot of cannabis in all its forms. Yeah? I prefer raw, certainly, and I prefer full plant, but I've used it in every way that you can think of. Yeah? And every way that you can think of seems to have some benefit.
Right.
Yeah. And the main thing is, it certainly doesn't do you any harm.
Right.
So
I guess that's one of the...
Give you your best chance, and it don't make no harm. So it'd be stupid not to try it, because it's not going to do you no harm.
It's an interesting part of the discussion that we're having is in the film, especially, is if it helps you. Well, a lot of people say it helps you psychologically, it helps you emotionally, and it plays a very big part. But it's sort of it's always the discussion around what should you do, when should you choose. It's based on evidence or be trialed, or should you go for something that's along the lines of what you're talking about?
Well, I think soon we're going to start seeing the numbers. Obviously, we've got the numbers on the conventional treatments at 3.7 after 3 years or 5 years, lowest survival rates in the UK, blah, blah, blah. We've got those as statistics. Now, very shortly, we're going to start seeing statistics to do with cannabis. Yeah. Now, I personally think we're well over 50-50. I think you've got about a 50-50 chance. Some people will say more, some people might say less. But if I go 50-50, I don't think anybody will really argue with that number. You've got a 50-50 chance. And that is far superior to the 3.7 that the chemo industrial PLC will give you after 5 years.
Well, I think chemo's chemo, isn't it? But I think that with regards to cannabis, I'd be really interested to know if there are any clinical trials being run on humans around cannabis.
Oh yeah, loads of them. There is loads of them. There is loads of them. All around the world now, there is loads of them. And they're coming in thick and fast. Yeah. Yeah. And again, they're all proving sort of very positive. Yeah. But it's early days. But the main thing is, all this research that they're doing and all these people that are taking it, you won't see anybody who says, well, I dropped dead from it. Whereas with chemo, you unfortunately lose your teeth in your hair minimum. Yeah? Minimum. Sure. Right? Whether it work or whether it don't, that's two things you're going to give up. Right? You give up a lot of other stuff as well. But certainly you're going to lose your hair, and certainly your teeth are going to fall out. Now, whether it worked for you or whether it don't work for you, and whether you're lucky enough to be one of the 3.7 that survive after 5 years, only God knows that. But cannabis, if you take as much cannabis as you like, your hair will get thicker and your teeth will get better. Whether it cure the problem you've got or not, well, again, that's back to God's choice. But I think we've got a bigger percentage now, and that's going to be proven scientifically very shortly, because as it moves forward, there's more evidence coming out. We're going to start seeing numbers that are quite surprising. Yeah. Certainly in excess of 50%. That's my personal experience.
Mate, I'll be very interested to see.
Yeah.
It's going to be very interesting what happens over the next 15, 20 years, don't you think, Steve? It's going to be really interesting to see what unfolds.
It'd be fantastic. I mean, again, with governments like Australia going fully on board with it, and Germany going on board with it. But the research is going to be absolutely incredible.
Medical cannabis will be legal in Australia from November. Unbelievable.
And Germany from yesterday. Germany.
But
I mean, the Germans don't do anything by it. You know, I'm not being the English German, but the Germans always think things through. They're not emotional, the Germans. And they've decided that medical cannabis is part of the arsenal for helping people that have got problems. German government. Yeah?
Mm.
We've got countries like Spain where it's legal. We've got California, Portland, where Gasper is totally legal. Washington, D.C., I believe there's 17 states and 32 in conversion. You've got Canada going, Paraguay has gone, Colombia's gone, Brazil's gone. I mean, these are big countries. Jamaica, obviously legal 3 years ago, still trying to work it out because that's Jamaica. But, you know, the whole world, all I'm saying is whether it work or whether it don't work, we should be given legal access to it. Yeah? Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's another discussion.
Yeah.
I tell you something though, Steve. One thing I know for sure is this. Prohibition doesn't work.
No. Prohibition doesn't work. No.
Do you know what I mean? It doesn't work, mate.
Yeah, it just doesn't work, does it? No, full stop.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that going to be your next film, Prohibition?
Well,
no. Listen, I want to go back to the film. So when's the estimated sort of arrival? When do you think the film will be finished?
July, August.
August, as much as that, man. Yeah.
Well, mate, It's not a small thing to put a film together. Look, let's say in February, March, April, May is the edit. June, July is potential overflow. Plus, we've got a bit more filming we've got to do. So we'll just see. The aim is to have the edit done by June, and you know, a viewable film ready to go is another thing entirely. So we'll see. But I'm saying July, August is a safety net, really.
Well, all I can say to my audience is when it's ready, we're going to get one of the first downloads. So, okay, watch this space.
Watch the space. Well, the other thing,
watch
Steve,
this space, man. Watch this space.
Everyone who's listening out there, go find us on Facebook. Follow us on Facebook, The Cancer Conflict, and thecancerconflictmovie.com. Sign up to our newsletter and keep abreast of everything that's happening.
And that's certainly if you're in the UK. Look, right, there's loads of good films about cancer. There's loads of good films about cannabis. There's loads of research about cannabis, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, what this guy has done for the UK people, and I'm finding more and more that the UK is waking up to the fact of this, but they're very uneducated, and that's no disrespect to them. Yeah? This film is really going to help you make your informed decision. Yeah? That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical expert, and I certainly can't advocate one treatment or another. And if I was to be in that situation, it'd be consult a number of experts.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm trying to put because obviously I'm cannabis, 100%, blah blah blah. But I'm trying to put my devil's advocate slippers on. If you're in any dilemma, I think this man's film, Thomas's film, gives a very balanced viewpoint of both ways of going about it, and you'll be able to make your own informed decision about what treatment you want to take once his film is finished, and that's why I've got full respect for Thomas. And it's nice to see a UK film, because there's loads coming out from all other countries. It's nice to see a good UK one now explaining what the situation is, without being biased.
Well, I really appreciate it. Well, we're trying. Look, we're trying to be unbiased. It's very difficult because lots of people have differing opinions, and everyone, there's people that already think that we are not biased. We're not unbiased, and we're doing the best we can. And I think that we've done a very good job with it so far. But one thing I
believe that too. I give it 100%. As unbiasedness, that's where you've really cracked the nut. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Obviously, that must open up the door to you, to the medical society that want to speak to you, because obviously they know I interview. I'm not going to be hardcore cannabis. So it's nice to see guys like you being able to open up the door to the other sides of the political debate or medical debate, where they will bring you in. Yeah. Because too much hardcore is not good for them. Well, I think we're closing down. We're nearly there, Casper. You still there with us, Casper? Are you wearing your rubber mask?
I'm here, and you have another 2 minutes on your show.
Right. Anyway, then let's talk about Time for Hemp. Time for Hemp is one of the most magnificent radio stations that there's ever going to be. And Casper, you've been going through some personal problems just lately again, about financing and keeping the station together. People don't realise how much work Casper's put into this. I've got to tell you, people. All right, this Casper Leach has kept this station going on fucking fresh air, and he's really gone down the line with it, man, and he really needs some support here, whether you're a big multinational or whether you're one of them big pot shops or whether you're, every dollar counts, man, to keep radio stations like this open, and the man's gone through some personal difficulties here, and some of the information that comes out on this station over the last, 3 years now, Casper, 3 years been going?
It's been about 4 now.
4 years, man, right?
Yeah.
And this man's kept it going all the time through thick and through the train. So a little bit of support wouldn't go on this, right? Because these radio networks like this that have been giving out the true information, and a lot of the people that have been on this station are real fucking dedicated people to the cause that helps you.
Thank you. Thank you for the shout out. We appreciate that.
Yeah, man. Big shout out for fucking Time for Hemp. I love it. I'm so glad I'm part of it. Hey, I'm off to Berlin soon. I've got an invite now. It's Time for Hemp to go down to Berlin. So we've got some nice footage coming in. And this summer as well, a little bit more about me. I'm stuck here in Romania, behind the 18, waiting for the summer to go on. We've got our own license now to grow our own crop. So that's all going to be put up on Time for Hemp. We're going to video it and sound record it. We're going to cause an Hemp Village here, man.
Fantastic. Well, tell your audience good night, and when you're going to see him next.
Hey, good night, people. Love you all. Thomas, thank you for being on. Casper, total respect as always. Time for Hemp, number one. Hemp works. Of course it does. Everybody knows that. One love.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. One love back at ya.
Lots of people think that cannabis is just for smoking, but when they hear this song, they'll learn there's more to toking. 25,000 different things we can make from it, and if we give it a chance, we'll save the blinking planet. Food, fuel and medicine, necessities for life, a benefit to all of us, our wonder and delight. Within this smelly weed, there's more than meets the eye, so much, much more than smoking, it can cleanse our dirty skies. Cannabis will save the planet, we can.
Broadcasting Network. The only broadcasting network dedicated to ending the global war on drugs on iHeartRadio. Please share us with your friends.
And a six-pack of the blues. I need a toke of rhythm and a six-pack of the blues. I got the boogeyman, you know you heard the news. I'm looking for fun, I'm feeling alright. Watch out now, I might go all night. I need a toke of rhythm and a six-pack of the blues. Look out now, you know you heard the news. Out in the town, looking for fun. Watch out now, I'm out on the run. I need a coke of rhythm and a six-pack of the blues. I got the boogeyman, you know you heard the news.
shoes.